All right, so we've got a whole stack of articles here about TikTok could be getting kicked out of the U.S., and it's a pretty wild story. So let's dive in and see what's really going on.
Yeah, it's a big deal. It's not just like an app disappearing. This is the Supreme Court just made a big decision.
Okay.
They upheld this law called PAYFACA. Stands for the Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary Controlled Applications Act.
PAYFACA few.
Yeah.
Okay, so what does that mean for TikTok exactly?
So basically, TikTok's parent company, ByteDance, they're Chinese. They're on the clock now.
Right.
They have until January 19th to sell their U.S. operations, or they have to say goodbye to American users.
So they're being forced to sell.
Yeah, and the court's reasoning is national security. They're worried about how TikTok collects data and their potential ties to the Chinese government.
So even though TikTok is saying, hey, this is,
free speech.
Free speech.
Yeah.
The court's basically saying national security is more important.
Exactly. And this is interesting because it sets a precedent not just for TikTok, but for any foreign company that's operating in the U.S.
Right. So it's like the rules of the game are changing.
Yeah, you could say that.
Okay, so let's talk about the players in this whole drama. We know ByteDance is trying to make a deal.
Right.
We know the government's watching closely. But then there are all these potential buyers circling around.
Yeah.
Who are the big names we should be looking at?
Well, some of these articles mentioned Elon Musk.
Okay.
He's apparently interested in merging TikTok with X.
Wait, TikTok and Twitter?
Yeah, formerly Twitter.
Together. That's kind of crazy to think about.
It's hard to imagine what that would actually look like.
Right.
But it could create this massive platform for news and entertainment and social interaction and really change the whole digital landscape.
Wow.
Then you've got these two, billionaire Frank McCourt and Shark Tank's Kevin O'Leary.
Okay.
And they're suggesting a TikTok that's all about data privacy.
So they're trying to tackle those national security concerns head on.
Yeah, I think that's their strategy.
Interesting.
And of course, you can't forget about the big tech companies, Microsoft and Oracle.
Oh, yeah. They were both interested in buying TikTok before, weren't they?
Yeah, they've been sniffing around TikTok for a while now. There was even talk about Walmart getting involved at one point.
Wow. So it's like a who's who of the tech world all trying to get a piece of the action.
Yeah, it's quite a competition.
This is getting really interesting. All right. So what does all this mean for the millions of TikTok users and the creators out there?
Well, think about this. In 2023, TikTok contributed $24.2 billion to the U.S. GDP.
Whoa, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, so a ban could have a huge impact on the economy. Everything from advertising revenue to how new music and trends get discovered could be affected.
Right, and what about all those creators who've built their careers on TikTok?
Yeah.
Like you've got Lexi Larson, Priscilla Lopez. These are people who've made TikTok their livelihood.
Absolutely, and a ban could completely disrupt that.
So this is way bigger than just one app.
Oh, yeah. This has the potential to reshape the whole social media world as we know it.
Okay, so with this January 19th deadline coming up, what are the big things we should be watching for in the next few days?
Well, first of all, we need to see if ByteDance gives any hints about who they want to sell to.
Okay.
Are they leaning towards Elon Musk's vision? Or maybe McCourt and O'Leary's data privacy approach? Or do they prefer the stability of a company like Microsoft or Oracle?
Right. Each one of those options would take TikTok in a completely different direction.
Exactly.
It's like we're choosing the future of online interaction here.
Yeah, this decision is going to have a huge impact on the whole digital world.
Wow. All right. So lots to think about.
Definitely.
We'll be back soon to break down the rest of this TikTok saga. But for now, stay tuned and thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, and we also have to wait and see what the incoming Trump administration is going to do about all this.
Right. Will they follow what the previous administration was doing, or is there a chance they might change things up?
It's hard to say at this point, and don't forget about how the users and creators might react to all of this. I mean, will they just move to other platforms, or could there be some kind of backlash against the ban?
Right. Public opinion can be a pretty powerful thing.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's step back for a minute and look at this from a different angle.
Okay.
Besides the whole national security issue, are there any potential upsides to a TikTok ban?
Well, some people argue that it could be a good thing for data privacy. You know, it makes us think about all the information we're sharing online and who has access to it.
It's like a wake-up call.
Yeah, and it could also create an opportunity for new platforms to pop up.
Oh, interesting. Like, remember Vine?
Exactly. Maybe we'll see a bunch of new creative apps and services trying to fill the gap.
So this could be a chance for something new and exciting to emerge.
It's definitely possible.
Okay, let's get a little more technical for a minute.
Sure.
What kind of data is TikTok actually collecting, and how could the Chinese government use that information?
Well, that's where things get a little fuzzy. There are concerns that TikTok is collecting a lot of user data.
Like what?
We're talking about browsing history, location data, even things like facial recognition scans.
Well, that's a lot.
Yeah, and the worry is that the Chinese government could get their hands on this data either by directly asking ByteDance for it or maybe by finding some kind of weakness in TikTok systems and exploiting it.
So even if TikTok says they would never hand over that data, there's still a lack of trust.
Exactly. And it's not just about accessing the data directly. Some people are also worried about how TikTok's algorithms could be manipulated.
Okay, how so?
Well, they could be used to promote certain content or to suppress other content, basically shaping what people see and influencing their opinions.
So it's like a subtle form of control.
Exactly. And the tricky part is that it's really hard to prove or disprove any of these allegations. It all boils down to how much you trust the Chinese government and the companies that operate under their rules.
It's a complicated situation with no easy answers. All right, let's go back to those potential buyers for a minute.
Okay.
Each one seems to have a different idea about what TikTok could become.
Yeah.
Let's start with Elon Musk. What would TikTok look like if it was integrated with X?
Well, Elon Musk is known for being unpredictable, so it's really hard to say for sure.
Right.
But based on what he said and done in the past, it's possible he might try to make TikTok more decentralized, maybe even using blockchain technology.
So it could be more than just a social media app.
Right. It could be used for financial transactions or other services.
Wow, that's a big idea.
Yeah, Musk has talked about wanting to create an everything app.
An everything app.
Yeah, something that combines social media with payments, ride-hailing, and who knows what else.
Wow.
Integrating TikTok could be a big step towards making that vision a reality.
Okay, so what about McCourt and O'Leary? How would their focus on data privacy change TikTok?
Well, they're proposing a model where TikTok would collect much less user data.
Okay.
And users would have more control over their privacy settings.
So they're really trying to address those privacy concerns head on.
Exactly. They're hoping that this will make people feel more comfortable using the app.
But could that kind of approach limit what TikTok can do or make it less profitable?
That's the challenge. They'll have to figure out how to balance those privacy concerns with the features and capabilities that make TikTok so popular in the first place.
Right. It's a tough balancing act.
It is.
Okay, so what about Microsoft and Oracle? What would they do with TikTok?
Well, they're both big tech companies with a lot of experience.
Right.
So they would probably take a more traditional approach, focusing on things like efficiency and scalability and making sure that TikTok integrates well with their existing products and services.
So it'd be more about making TikTok run smoothly and less about making big changes.
Yeah, they might focus on improving security and infrastructure, expanding how TikTok makes money, and maybe finding ways to connect it with their other offerings.
So it sounds like each potential buyer represents a different path for TikTok with its own set of pros and cons.
Absolutely. And the decision that ByteDance makes will have a huge impact, not just on TikTok, but on the whole social media landscape and the digital economy as a whole.
It's a decision with far-reaching consequences.
Yeah.
But let's not forget about the human side of all this. I mean, millions of people use TikTok to connect with each other, to find entertainment, and even to make a living. What would a ban mean for them?
Well, it would be a huge disruption, to say the least.
Yeah.
People would lose access to their favorite creators and communities and trends. Creators would lose their platforms and their audiences, which could really hurt their livelihoods.
It's like losing a part of your online life.
Yeah. And for some creators, it's also losing their main source of income.
Right. And it's not just about the individuals involved.
Yeah.
Think about the cultural impact. TikTok has become a place where new ideas and trends are born.
Yeah.
Even social movements have started on TikTok. A ban could really stifle that creativity and limit the diversity of voices and perspectives we see online.
It's a good point. We have to remember that technology isn't just about bits and bytes. It's about people and how we connect with each other and express ourselves.
Exactly.
It's a reminder that as we navigate this complex world of tech and politics and social impact, we need to keep the human element at the forefront of our minds.
I completely agree. It's a story that's far from over. But as we wait for the next chapter to unfold, it's important to stay informed, to have thoughtful conversations, and to really consider the consequences of every decision that's made. It really does feel like we're on the edge of our seats here, waiting to see what happens next. But no matter what happens with TikTok, this whole situation has brought up some important issues.
Yeah, definitely. It's making us really think about things like data privacy and national security and the influence that technology has in our lives.
Right, and those aren't just abstract ideas. They have real consequences for people and businesses and even whole countries.
Exactly. It's a reminder that the digital world and the real world are totally intertwined now. It affects our daily lives, our economy, our political systems.
Yeah, it's all connected. And with technology changing so fast, these issues are just going to get more complex and more intertwined.
Absolutely. We need to be talking about these things now to make sure that technology is working for us, not the other way around.
So as we watch this TikTok story unfold, what are the key takeaways for our listeners? What should they be watching for in the coming weeks and months?
Well, keep an eye on the legal battles that are probably going to happen no matter what ByteDance decides. This case has set a precedent, so we might see more challenges to foreign companies that have apps and services in the U.S.
So this could be the start of a whole new wave of tech regulation.
It's definitely possible. And it's not just happening in the U.S. Other countries are facing the same kinds of questions, trying to balance national security and economic interests with individual rights and freedom of information. This is a global issue now.
And what about all the users and creators who are stuck in the middle of all of this? What advice would you give them?
I would say don't put all your eggs in one basket. Diversify your platforms, explore other options, and be ready for things to change. The digital world is always evolving, so you got to be adaptable and resilient.
So it's like having a backup plan, making sure you're not completely dependent on one platform for your income, your connections, your creative outlet.
Right. And remember, this is just one part of a much bigger story. The future of technology and how it shapes our world is still being written. We all have a role to play in shaping that future.
Yeah, it's a good reminder that we're not just passive consumers of technology. We have a voice, and we can make a difference in creating the kind of digital world we want to live in. So as this TikTok drama continues, let's stay informed and ask the tough questions and use our voices to advocate for the kind of digital future we believe in.
I agree. And don't forget, knowledge is power. The more we understand about these complicated issues, the better choices we can make and the better we can navigate this ever-changing digital landscape.
That's a great point. Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll definitely be keeping a close eye on this story as it develops. So stay tuned for updates. And in the meantime, keep those questions coming, because that's what the deep dive is all about, exploring these fascinating and sometimes challenging issues together.
Thanks for having me.